Hi, I'm Rachel Kornfield, and I'll be presenting our paper, Meeting Users Where They Are, User-Centered Design of an Automated Text Messaging Tool to Support the Mental Health of Young Adults. Rates of mental health conditions like depression and anxiety are extremely high among young adults ages 18 to 25 and are increasing. However, many young adults are uninterested in formal treatments like psychotherapy or are unable to access them because of barriers like costs. We know, however, that young people regularly use digital technologies like mobile phones, which provides an alternative pathway to reach young adults who have symptoms of depression and anxiety and provide treatment and support. Most tools for young adults, however, have been designed for those who are already linked to formal care. In this project, we wanted to consider the needs of non-treatment seeking young adults. We worked with a community advocacy organization called Mental Health America. They offer a series of screening surveys on their website, which are accessed by upwards of 1 million users a year who are seeking to understand their symptoms and potentially find resources. The tools that we design through Mental Health America can potentially be made widely available outside the care system. In this project, we emphasize an accessible intervention modality, automated text messaging, which doesn't require that users have a smartphone or reliable or consistent access to a data plan. We were interested in 3 research questions. First, how do young adults make decisions about whether to adopt an automated digital mental health tool? Second, what sorts of content would they want such a tool to deliver, and how do they want to navigate that content? And third, what should be the way a tool would relate to them socially and deliver support and motivation? We used a text-based online discussion group in which we released a prompt every several days to which users could respond asynchronously as well as responding to one another. We also held a series of design workshops with 9 young adults via Zoom. As far as initial assessments of digital mental health tools, we found that participants really wanted us to appeal to their strong motivation to help themselves, framing tools as a self-help strategy. One suggested, just be like, if you think you need help, try this new opportunity to help yourself. This was contrasted to emphasizing enjoyment or social gratifications of tools. As far as text messaging, we did find that participants had some unhelpful associations between text messaging and interpersonal communication, in that they assumed text messaging tools would primarily be centered on delivering companionship or social support, or even replacing interpersonal relationships. This suggests a need to clarify that automated text messaging tools can be used independently and then they can be part of a self-help process. They did really appreciate the reach and convenience of text messaging, including comparing it favorably to app-based approaches. One described, "I'm always on the texting app. I don't have to open something else." As far as the content to be delivered within an automated messaging tool, we found that participants really appreciated diversity and variety. This included diversity in the psychological strategies a tool would support. They were receptive to strategies coming from cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, and positive psychology, especially if we framed the tool as offering a variety of different strategies that they could see if they liked and pick between. They also wanted variety as far as the different types of interactions. So beyond just receiving one-way messages giving information about these strategies or tips for carrying them out, they wanted opportunities to respond back to the system in a more conversational way, and in some cases to respond with free text, such as to reflection questions. One participant described, "If I can connect it back to something in my personal life, it'll have more meaning and therefore I'll remember it better." We found that personalization was also highly valued by participants. They saw some contextual factors, specifically mood, energy, and their availability, as being key to shaping how they would want to interact with a system on a given day or at a given time. And so they saw a need to give the system some clues about what they were going through or dealing with so that it could provide the right sorts of content. They were also very open to giving ongoing feedback about what they liked and what they didn't like and how it could be improved, especially if that might lead to more relevant content in the future. Finally, participants wanted a balance between system recommendations of content and making some explicit choices about the types of interactions or strategies a tool would focus on. One participant described the optimal balance this way. You should be able to say, yeah, this isn't working. Can we try something else? Maybe the system goes, well, let's try one more day of this strategy. And if you still feel this way, then we'll switch to a different type of message. As far as how the system would relate to them socially and its motivational tone, we found that participants were wary of certain types of motivational messages that were perceived as too human-like, such that they would be insincere coming from an automated system. This included responses from the system suggesting it was having affective experiences. So one described, if a computer texts, hey, I'm proud of you, that doesn't really do anything for me. Participants were also skeptical of affirmational statements that would come from an automated system because they were skeptical that a system would have a credible capacity to assess them. So one described affirmation doesn't necessarily feel right coming from a program because it's like, oh, you're just saying that. It didn't seem believable or authentic to an automated system. On the other hand, participants did want certain types of motivation from the system, in particular, validation. One described, I like being reminded that it's normal to be struggling with things. They also thought that even very brief rationales could be helpful so that they would know how taking an action would pay off for them. Even one sentence would be nice. One described, that makes me take it more seriously. On the whole, we found that independence is a key consideration in this developmental stage and for these users. It shaped how young adults considered adopting a tool initially, since they wanted to use a tool that they could use on their own as part of a self-help process. Their need for independence is also reflected in how they want to navigate content, giving feedback and making choices to shape what they receive. And finally, they were skeptical about a tool that was inauthentically social, and they were sensitive to the idea that they might be manipulated by a tool that was not authentic in how it presented itself. As far as the design implications, our findings suggest the need to proactively clarify that text messaging can be used independently as part of a self-help process, and that a tool can provide a low-stakes way to explore diverse content types. We also found that beyond just being burdensome to users, offering feedback can be an enriching part of the user experience if it leads to receiving more relevant content. Finally, we found some trade-offs when incorporating cues of humanness into automated messaging tools for this population. So we hope that our findings can lead to the design and development of tools that better meet the needs of young adults who are not seeking formal treatment. So thank you very much for your attention.